Now this brings us to where the text starts today. Because Joseph died. And when Joseph died, his kinsmen lived on. His children had children, and his aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews had children. And their children had children, and their children had children. So much so to where some years have passed, and the Bible says there arose a new Pharaoh over Egypt who didn't know Joseph. When I read that, I was kind of shocked, because when we listen to people talk about Egypt and ancient Egypt, they talk about how great they were. They were the first ones to embalm a body. They were the first ones to discover mathematics. They were the first ones to do this. They were the first ones to do that. They had all of these great things held to their claim. But it's funny how they did not have any history books. It's funny how they had all of these great things, but they did not have a grandmama to tell the story of the grandmother, of the great-grandmother, of the great-great-grandmother, of the great-great-great-grandmother, because if that had happened, the Pharaoh would have knew his history. And then he would have known Joseph. And he would have known how, although he was being intimidated by the children of Israel, that actually there would be no children of Egypt without the children of Israel.
Amen.
So now that brings us to this verse at number 8. It says, "Now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass, Sade, I hope you're praying, that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. So get them up out of the land." Now, he was saying basically that I don't know where they came from. I don't know what their purpose is. I don't know how they got here, because he didn't know Joseph. If he knew Joseph, he would have known how they got there. But he didn't know Joseph, so he said, I don't know where these people came from, but we're going to deal wisely with them. And I'm going to put taskmasters over them, and I'm going to make them work for me. But what I love about the Bible is the Bible says in verse number 12, "But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew." This is what brings us to the source of our text on today. The more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. What is the correlation in today's world? I'm so glad that you asked. We as children of God are Israelis stuck in Egypt. Amen. And too many times the king of Egypt looks at us and says, I don't know how you got here. This is why it is so hard, Bishop, for the church to recruit other people.
Come on, sir.
Because we are afflicted and we are oppressed and we are talked about. But what they don't understand is that within the walls of the church, the more that we're afflicted, oppressed, and talked about, the more we grow.
Amen.
We may not grow like you think we should grow, but I guarantee you we are growing nonetheless.
Well,
because it is through the trials and it is through the working of our patience that we really understand who God is. Let me park right here. Saying amen to a preacher is like saying sick him to a dog.
Amen.
So if you say amen to me, we'll get to where we're going real fast.
All right.
So there are too many times we look at the church and we say, the outsiders will look at the church and they'll say, well, they got nothing going on. They got nothing about them. There's nothing really about them that would make me desire to be a part of them. There's nothing about this church world that we talk about that would make me want to serve this Jesus. There's nothing about them that's attractive. There's nothing about them that is appealing to us. Yet, they are still intimidated by us. Well, they still have a fear when we walk into the room. They still have a fear when we gather together and build up one name. Can I take you back in the Bible? The Bible says in Genesis that when they came together in Babel to build the tower, Jesus, God looked down from heaven and God said, they're all of one mind and of one accord, and if they keep this way, nothing shall be impossible for them.